got to love an iPhone. Your whole writing business and well, basically the rest of the world with you wherever you go. And now there's iOS 17 for the iPhone, completely free and pretty excellent. A pretty excellent update if your iPhone is a 2018 iPhone XS or newer. There is also macOS Sonoma for the Mac, iPadOS 17 for the iPad, and watchOS for the Apple Watch, which we'll talk about separately. tvOS as well, update. Is that word? Well, we'll see about it. Have a look in the description for links to 58 Keys episodes about each of these. And in each of these updates, what you and I are interested in is what the updates bring for us as writers, and how nice the watchOS is. Yeah, there's nothing in there, but anyway, we'll get to watchOS. Actually, we can just do nice things as well. It doesn't have to be all specific, right? That's the excuse. Nice things. Hello, I'm William Gallagher, and this is 58 Keys, which, as ever, as always, is for writers like you and me who use and who write on Macs and iPhones and iPads and use Apple Watches as well. Do subscribe or support 58 Keys on Patreon because, I mean, there's always so much to talk about, but maybe especially at this time of year with all of these new releases. I mean, so much. But let's do the iPhone, and let's start with the biggest iOS 17 feature, an iPhone tool, new iPhone tool that is, no question, hands down for writers, but it isn't on the Mac, isn't on the iPad, and actually it isn't on the iPhone either. Follow. It's called, or it's going to be called, Journal, and if you've already heard of it, then I hope you've also heard that it's not, it's in iOS 17, but it's not included in iOS 17 at launch. It is instead coming later in the year. And if you hadn't already heard, well, you have now. Okay, while we have to wait for Journal, I actually think it's going to be pretty good. It's like the Day One app, if you know that. It's an app that lets you, keep a diary, yes, by, typing into it, but also lets you collate in certain other details. And in the case of Apple's Journal one, those other details, they're going to also include photos you took that day, Apple Fitness workouts you meant to do, music you listened to, all sorts of things, and only what you decide you want, but all gathered in there for you. Plus, Journal recognises what productive and never distracted people we writers are. So yeah, it also knows to remind us to get writing. Okay, I told you it's for us. Frankly, Journal is a knockoff of Day One. There's no going around it. And Day One is going to be affected by this. Journal is free, Day One, yeah. I was let down so badly by Day One a few years ago. I'm afraid I don't care. But if you're a Day One fan and you do care, well, just keep on writing in it. I understand it's very good now. If you want to use Journal, though, well, then you're going to have to wait a while, like I say. Apple did this last year with Freeform. That's it, the then new Freeform app. And that came out in the end on December 13. So when Apple says by the end of the year, yeah. Even when it is out, though, remember, it's going to solely be on the iPhone. You would think a journaling app would be a good spot on the iPad, the Mac, each of it, but not this year, maybe next. Something big for us as writers that we do have now, though, and that actually I really didn't think I'd be quite so interested in as I am now that I've used it, is a big addition to the Health app. Look at us, right? Look at what you and I do. We write. Even as a full-time writer, okay, there are times when I go out to meet people, we all do lots of Zoom calls and all that. But for the main part of what we do as a writer, well, we're alone, and I'm alone and I'm typing, and so are you, unless you're in a writing, but you're just being awkward now, aren't you? Okay, fine. All right, partnership or solo then, you are a writer, therefore you get rejections, right? I mean, you get them, and actually also you get so used to them too. I cannot count the number of times I've received a rejection, and it's taken, a solid minute for me to remember, what was this? What did I submit? Who did I submit what to? And actually, sometimes, it remains a mystery. The other day, I got really nice feedback about a script from a production company that I promise you, I've never even heard of them. But then I suppose actually they also said, but we don't want it, so it evens out. Anyway, the thing is, right? Okay, even when you are inured to injury, that's a phrase. Even when you're inured to injury from rejections, no, you're not. There are still going to be ones, unexpectedly, maybe that are a knife. Our mental health takes a beating because of what we do and the way we work, the isolation, how very much we are in our own heads going over and over. I think we're vulnerable. Take a look at this. Brand new to iOS 17. I'm really taken with this. I think Apple has done a particularly smart job because with a very few quick taps here on your iPhone, but also on your iPad, even on your Apple Watch, not on your Mac yet, I notice, you can record like broad details of how you're feeling today or right now, and then details again quite broad of what's happening around you, what else, and very very quickly, I mean instantly actually, you can start seeing charts and they build up and you can start to see details of what you've entered and what else is going on. So over time, for example, you'll see that maybe you tend to feel quite chipper on Sundays, and that's the day you go for a run. Or on Tuesdays, you tend to be miserable, and totally coincidentally, no judgment here, that's when you see your family. Apple Health does not make connections, but it helps you too. It's so well done and so good. So journal could be big. I think health is big. By the way, actually, for the first time with iPadOS 17 for the iPad, Apple's health app is now also on the iPad, so it's not only on the phone anymore, still not on the Mac. You can record details on your iPhone, say, and then examine them on the bigger screen of the iPad, should you wish to, should you have the nerve. But enough with the big things. There are actually a lot of small ones that are rather good in iOS 17, such as one that is a tiny improvement, but it's across the whole of iOS 17 and anything you run on it. Apple has improved its auto-completion, and yeah, it's good. I like it on the Mac too. You're used to your iPhone suggesting a word when you started to type it, so that you can just tap one of those buttons above the keyboard. I mean, that effectively means, yeah, that is the word I meant. Put it in for me with the correct spelling. Fine. But now that also applies to phrases. Not very many, not at first, but especially as you keep on using this on your iPhone, it will start to offer 1 and 2 and 3 words to continue your sentence, the most likely sentence, instead of just the correct spelling of the current word. Truly believed that would be incredibly distracting. And actually, sometimes I just forget that it's there and I am blindly typing on regardless. But then other times, and a lot, increasingly in fact, I find that I'll be typing, it will suggest something, I'll kind of unconsciously absorb what it's suggesting, and then just as unconsciously tap the space bar to let it do its thing while I move on to what I'm writing next. As I record this, I can't actually test this bit to show you, or even just because I'd like to use it for myself, because right now I'm still on the beta, and also I think even when I'm not, I don't think my mobile phone carrier is going to play nice with this feature anyway, historical reasons. But if your carrier does, well, you can be doing a thing and writing away, and then your iPhone will answer calls for you and let people leave a message. I mean, so far, so the same as ever. But now, as they are leaving it, as they are speaking, your iPhone will show you a live transcription of what they're saying on screen. So before, you had to base your decision over whether to answer or not, purely based on who was calling again. Now it's who's calling and what do they want as well. I'm sounding quite rude to other people. Sorry about it. Well, how about this then? Actually, here's something I think that is nice for other people and for yourself. Check-in. It's called check-in. Back in the day, you could tell your family and friends that, when you get home, you could tell them, I'll give you a quick 3 rings on the phone. That's what you used to be able to do. Can't anymore. Those days are so long gone now. Because the ringing you hear when you phone someone has just no connection. It's literally connected, but there's no bearing on the ringing or the number of rings or the ringtone that they hear on their phone. So there is no possibility that you can just let it ring a specific number of times and then hang up so that you avoid the cost of a call maybe, or I've just been talking to them, bye again, any of that. But now, Messages on the iPhone has this new check-in feature. If you choose to use it, then whenever you do get home, say, or any particular place you've set, then whoever you have also chosen to tell that you're back home safe will automatically get a message saying you're home, you're safe, all's done. And if you aren't, if you don't make it home, then after a while your iPhone is going to ask what's happening. And if you tell it, you say, you've stopped for McDonald's, get off my back, well then fine, it just carries on waiting till you're home and all that stuff. But if you don't respond, check-in will automatically tell your friend where you are right now, what the battery level of your iPhone is, so they know whether they can call you or not, and details like that. We are going to hear cases where check-in has actually saved lives by guilting people out of going to McDonald's. I am actually going to use check-in on occasion, from time to time, which by chance means this is actually the first time I'm going to use an app within Messages on the iPhone. I'm actually going to use what is called a Messages app. But there are already a lot of these. I mean, really a lot. And iOS 17 has also made it easier to find and to use them. So, for example, you can use a mapping Messages app to send a map to people, or you can share whatever music you're currently playing. Tell somebody what music you're playing, share them, I'm sure they want to know. While you're typing text messages back and forth, you can send them this detail, and it's great. Not just text, not just links to music or whatever. I have a friend, by the way, who regularly leaves me audio messages rather than typing an at you. It's amazing because she's a radio presenter and such a great voice. It's like she's made me a short show. It just automatically, perfectly formed, and it's fantastic. Now in iOS 17, the audio, if she sends it over Messages, will also be transcribed into text. So you can read it at a glance now and then listen later to enjoy it, if you want. Similarly, you can also now, leave an audio message or even a video one when you call someone over FaceTime audio or regular FaceTime video, and they don't answer. Obviously don't use this because I didn't realise you couldn't, but FaceTime also can now be done on your Apple TV 4K, which seems quite the feat since, my TV doesn't have a camera, but fortunately my iPhone does. So does yours. I don't honestly think I'm going to have pitch meetings in my living room, but apparently now I could. In theory, I could also use, totally different, I could use standby. Put your iPhone onto a charger like this overnight, and instead of just dimming the screen first and then turning it off, standby will stay on and it will show you the time, the date, photos, all sorts of things that you can choose, all the live long night along. It's so well done, actually. It also knows the time, it senses the room. It doesn't have a bright light shining out into the bedroom. It dims appropriately. Except no one actually, Apple doesn't point this out. Nobody seems to point this out. It only works with the iPhone 14 Pro or later. It's because your iPhone has to have an always on screen. And if it doesn't, like my iPhone 13 Pro, very nice. The last all night display turns off after a minute or something like that, and there is nothing you can do about it. I wonder about suddenly setting dimming to anything older than iPhone 14 Pro. It's a bit fiddly at best, might be pointless. But assuming you have an iPhone that can handle this new standby, it is actually very smart. So you put it on this stand by your desk, right? And you can have it set up to show all day, a calendar and a clock, something like that. Pop it onto a different charger by your bed, and you can set it to show different things, like just the time or something like that. And it remembers which stand you're on. So you take it back to the office stand, and you're right, okay, I'm ready. Switches back to however you had it set up there. So this one thing, it turns your iPhone into a bedside clock and a desk accessory if you have an always-on screen. But if you do, you also get the full benefit of live activities which have been improved now. These sit on your iPhone's lock screen and they just keep updating with the latest information, like flight delays, time to your gate opening, something to do with last minute goals in some sport or other, whatever. Timers, actually, you can also use time. You can see the latest timer on there. And something new, really small, but that I really like, is finally with iOS 17 you can set multiple timers. And do I mean multiple? All right, I will tell you, but only you. Okay. I tried it out and I gave up after setting timers only after I'd entered 50 of them, and the iPhone was still saying, yeah, yeah. Is that all you got? Bring it on. May have been a slow day, actually. But in all seriousness, I have actually used multiple timers now while cooking. You know, this long for the oven, that long for the veg things, whatever. As long as I remember that it can do it, I mean, so long without it, as long as I can remember it, I will use it. And you can give each timer a name. So it's really easy to say, set a timer called oven for 20 minutes or whatever. Another timer for when do you put the spuds on? Or actually, when do you need to bake? I'm really getting into this, aren't I? Baste the turkey, or just totally separate from cooking ingredients, count down to the ETA of your relatives arriving because it's Tuesday. Apple does tend to give everything names, every little smidgen of every little thing, and I don't know that you need to know to remember which bit is called the today screen or which thing is the dynamic island. You just use these things. But sometimes Apple's really good at this, such as now in iOS 17. You've seen AirDrop, where you can swap images, documents, and whatever between your iPhone and your Mac. Yeah. But by the way, I should say, quick aside, AirDrop has been improved. By the way, it used to be that you had to stand next to the other device while it was going on, but now you don't. You don't have to wait for the whole transfer to go over. You just make sure it's started, and then you can just wander off. As long as there's an internet connection, the rest will be completed. But the new thing with the naming, what's also been transferable now, what is also transferable when you want it to happen to, is the contact details for you and anybody else you like. The two of you go, contact details. Hold your iPhones together and it can be done. And the name, Apple calls this name drop. Name dropping. I could applaud Apple. What's also, I think well done, but I'm less keen on myself, is that you can now customize. I'm really not sure about this, what other people see when you call them. So if you're on iOS 17 as well and I phone you, you see this. I set that up on my iPhone and it feels intrusive actually, popping onto yours. I mean, especially what if, for instance, you don't like me and you put a picture of the devil in your contacts page for me. And instead of the name William, you had your iPhone come up with, oh God, not him again. Something like that. I hope you don't, but you've got to have the option, and you don't. Just to wrap up, by the way, what's useful in iOS 17 for us? Okay, there are some smaller things that actually I like better. I like immensely, and maybe even too much. One is you no longer have to say hey, as in hey Iris, or the correct name. You just say Siri. It is the smallest thing, but actually it's proven to make a big difference for me, and I find I over like it. And the other thing, I don't over like, I like this at the appropriate amount. Interactive widgets. You've got this on the Mac as well. It used to be that a widget, it would show you the information like the weather or what music is playing or something, but it wouldn't actually do anything else. Yes, you could tap on a widget, but what that would do is it would launch the weather app, it would launch the music, the main app of whatever the widget was. But now you're listening to music, say, and you can tap a skip forward button right there in the widget without going into the music, without finding, all that stuff. It's funny, iOS 17 has these big things for us as writers. I mean, the health stuff now, and especially journal at some point later. But otherwise, it's like Apple made a list of every feature in iOS 17 and put a tick next to them as they gave each one at least some small improvement. I like that. I like that a lot. I had to switch back to iOS 16 for a thing the other week, and it just seemed a bit wrong. iOS 17, that's the real iPhone. Until next year with iOS 18. Look, that's it for this edition of 58 Keys. Thank you very much for watching. Now take care of yourself, write more, and I'll see you soon.